I cleared my throat so I could test my microphone. So I'm new at this. I've never worn a face mic before, so bear with me. I'd like to start with reading Ephesians 4, 1 through 3. I, therefore, a prisoner for the Lord, urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. And I told you I'm new at this. I got to get the tools there. Back up. And I'm going to segue from that into the reading of Jeremiah 29. For I know the plans I have made for you, declares the Lord, plans not to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Sometimes things happen to you that don't make sense and seem bad. Stick with it. Maybe God's got a plan. On October 16, 2010, my wife and I had been working on a church mission all day, and filthy dirty, come home middle of the afternoon. We decided we'd clean up, take our bike on a 30, 40-mile ride out through the countryside, come back, grill some steaks, spend the evening at home. I got back about 5 weeks later. At the intersection of T and WW Highway, if you know that, the car pulled up at WW at the stop sign. He stopped. I put this bike in the granny low, went around him. When I was right in front of him, he took off. This is after the wreck. The bike wasn't hurt bad, but the left saddlebag on this thing was crunched, and there's some road rash. But Sandy took a roll, I took a roll. She jumped up and came over to see me, how I was doing. I was laying on my back in the middle of the T highway. I couldn't move. I could wiggle my toes, but I could not move at all. So she was busy running back and forth on T highway trying to stop traffic because it's a blind spot. She'd run over here and stop traffic, run over there and stop traffic because her husband's laying in the middle of the road. And she got those people to stop traffic, and then she made the one phone call out of there for 911 that we could get out that day from that site. So they backboarded me to Parkland ER, and Dr. Gardner was there, and they took the x-rays and everything, and then he came in holding up the x-ray and talked to Sandy. And of course, I'm laying there staring at the ceiling. I can't move. I'm backboarded. Now, here's the words I heard him say. Here's his broken back. Here's his tumor, and I think it's cancer. And he may have said 1,000 words, but that's what I heard. And so they took me on the same backboard to Barnes that night. I spent that night being wheeled around in the lower bowels of Barnes Hospital, staring at the ceiling. I can tell you there's no ceiling panels in those lower panels. That's all I could see. But they did that all night. They tested me and all the tests and everything. And the results were they took out T5. I have no vertebrae right here. I'm fused with 18 pieces of steel, T2 to T8. So as you can see, I'm very mildly, I can't move at all. It's worked out well, and I've not had an ounce of pain since that surgery. Nothing, no pain whatsoever. And so that worked out well. But the cancerous tumor that was diagnosed as multiple myeloma, that's a blood-borne disease that builds tumors and puts them on the bones. And it's lifelong. Excuse me. I was told that it's not curable, it's treatable. And the phrase they used was, you'll die with this, but not of it. But the chemo is a treatment, and it's not pleasant. It's a mild chemo usually. But I went through 77 cycles, 77 two-week cycles, that's 3 years, of chemo, where you're on 5 days, and then you're off 9, but it takes the 9 days to recover from the 5. I was listless, I was tired, I was worn down all the time. My grandkids are coming up, what's wrong with Pop? I'd meet people out on the street thinking I'd given a good face, and they say, are you okay? And I knew that I was not living my life as I wanted it to be. And so they in this process, they gave me radiation to kill that whatever was left of that tumor and then put me on the chemo. And I was on that 3 years, I say, and it was not a pleasant life. It was tiresome. So I prayed about it. I didn't want to live this way. And in October of 2013, God told me that I should, here's the message, pay attention. I'm going to show you something. And it was just that clear, and I can't say it was verbal. It wasn't written on a plaque or anything like that, but I knew it. I knew that phrase. And so God had my attention. Let's talk about Moses. Moses was minding his own business one day, walking through the wilderness, and he saw a bush on fire. And that's going to catch your attention out in the middle of nowhere, the bush burning. And then you look at it and it's not burning. It's on fire, but it's not burning. Now that had Moses' attention. Well, God told Moses after he had his attention what he wanted, and there's the message. He wanted to lead the children out of Israel to the promised land. But he had to get his attention before he did that. God had my attention with the message. Pay attention, I'm going to show you something. Excuse me. November 2nd, 2013, before dawn, I sat straight up in my bed and said, sting yourself once a day. Again, very, very clear that was what I was supposed to do. Now, I'm a beekeeper. I know about apitherapy, miracle about how I became a beekeeper. But there's an age-old practice of people that actually enjoy getting bee stung because it makes their other pains less. Right here in Farmington, we know of a guy that was making 3 trips a week to a lady that was intentionally stinging him with 20 bees per trip, 60 bee stings a week, because he was debilitated with arthritis without that. And to him, it was a blessing to do that. Now, he's not doing it anymore. He's on bee cream. But other than that, and we have a lady here that did it, and she's the one that trained me about the apitherapy. Another miracle. I already knew about this before God told me to sting myself. But my problem was nausea. I didn't have pain. Nothing in the literature said that apitherapy worked for nausea. I've never heard of it before. So I started right away, and I went down to a hive. Now, I'm not saying I'm sane in all cases, because I suited up with my bee suit to keep from being stung, so I go down there and sting myself. Wisdom isn't always coming in with these miracles, I'll tell you that. But I'd grab a bee. Now, here I was in a bee suit. I'd slide my sleeve up in my gloved hand, grab a bee, and stick her there so she'd sting me, then pull it down so nobody'd sting me. Anyway, that's the way that worked out, and I did that every day, and it worked. I started feeling better, and did that for months. Then God was showing me that bee venom is important to your body in these cases. There's a phrase, everything that comes out of a beehive is important to you, good for you. Who knew that venom was this great? So then God gave me another word, transdermal. I'm just smart enough in medical circles to know that there's 2 kinds of lotions, topical, transdermal. Topical lays on top of your skin creams, cosmetics. Transdermal goes through the skin. And so there's 2 kinds of ways of doing that. So I knew about that, but that's all I knew about it. Another miracle. Amanda Hutchings she and her husband went to high school with my son-in-law, our son-in-law Eric. So we knew them. They were raising kids together, and the mutual birthday parties and everything. And when married couples with kids have birthday parties, they invite the old geezers along. So Sandy and I got to meet Amanda and her kids and her family. Excuse me. And that's her job. She's a director of a medical compounding laboratory and has done that for many years. She's one of these people that if you need a Tylenol without red food color, she'll make you a white Tylenol. And Sandy's mother in her last years of life couldn't take pills. Amanda made a body lotion for her, and that dear lady got a body massage every day. She had no idea that everybody was wearing gloves and they were putting the medication on her. But she enjoyed those body lotions, rubs, and Amanda did that. She's the one that came up with that. So I had the source of who to go to on transdermal, another miracle. So I called her. Amanda, you know what apitherapy is? Yeah, it works, but it's painful and inconvenient. And she also said seasonal. She learned that later. Excuse me. I said, have you ever thought about transdermal? And at that point, she just went quiet. Finally, she said, I'll call you back later. And about 20 minutes, she called me back. She said, yeah, 2 weeks ago, I told you this couldn't have been done because melatonin, I could tell right there, that's the active ingredient in bee venom, is a very high molecular weight material. And she said, until 2 weeks ago, there was no transdermal lotion that would carry melatonin through the skin, high molecular weight materials. She said, now we can do it. Now I'll have to order these materials. They're all pharmacy grade, so I'll have to have a prescription. So I had to go back to my oncologist and ask him to give me a prescription for a bee sting. I am the first person in the history of the earth to get a prescription for a bee sting. I had to talk him into it. He checked on the legalities and faxed it back to us. After that, and while it was still in prescription, the bee cream that we developed, we had other people that was, thank you, Sandy. She takes care of me. Either that or I'll sting her with a bee, one of the two. While we were still under prescription, we did have other people getting prescriptions for it. So that's gone now, but other doctors fell in line with it. So she developed this for me under prescription grade, but then she went to her first true love, which was developing lotions under all natural, plant oils and all stuff you can almost buy locally, certainly no chemicals. That first one was chemically based, and we didn't care for that part of it. So she developed a recipe. We did that over time. And the first lotion she developed took about 20 minutes for the reaction, put it on and go through. Now it's down to 5 to 7 minutes. She's tweaked the percentages of the essential oils in it. And we're getting a patent on that because, and I'll talk about that later, but this is a patented process. And we wanted to give this same benefit to other people. I was feeling very much relief. We had other cancer patients getting the same relief. And so, and of course, the apitherapy by a lot of literature applies very heavily to arthritis patients, so those are a big person. We did that. We started making, she'd cook it in her kitchen or make it in her kitchen. We get little plastic bottles, and I think there's a lot of people in this building that got some of those samples. We were handing it out, here's one, and we handed those out, and we were getting feedback. And the first one stunk like everything. The problem is Amanda has absolutely no sense of smell, none. And so we don't put her in that part of the test anymore. But she decided she'd add some fragrance to the first, and I think it was about a quart, something, I don't know. That didn't go over well. But that was one of the major problems we had. Got that solved. But we wanted others to get this benefit. It's a miracle from God, and we wanted to find out how we could help others. By accident, people were testing, using it for whatever, and this list and others have come up that it works well for. This is God's thing. It's not me. God did this. And like I say, everything comes out of a beehive is healthy, and all these things come up. So it's God designed, why patent it? Because we want to control the quality, the story behind it, the price structure. We don't want this to get so out of crazy. We don't want the blaring claims that other people would make. So after a while, it's going to go into public domain. It won't be a problem. But we wanted to start it under control. There are other possible medical ramifications on this. Cancer cells are killed by bee venom, absolutely, no question. They were looking for the vehicle to take it in. We may have that. MS treatments, MS patients, multiple sclerosis, have long been treated by apitherapy with live bee sting, excuse me, and HIV and MRSA infections are now being treated by this. I mentioned that, I've got my laser turned on. I mentioned that bee venom is a high molecular weight, so is insulin. So this may be a new vehicle for that to carry it into the skin. And whatsoever you do in the word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God and the Father by him, Colossians 3. Came time to name our company. We've all been all through everything we did. We said, let's honor God. Let's do this. And we tell people it's in honor of the Father. But we can't name the company. So we named it Divine Apologics. Divine, all caps, is in honor of God. Happy is the honeybee, and then it's just logical to do it that way. So that's, there are focus groups that would never have come up with that. But anyway, so we're Divine Apologics, LLC. These are some of the known miracles that came in. And when you, all the way through this, it was like disjointed things happening. It made no sense at all. The motorcycle wreck. But with the motorcycle wreck, they found early cancer in me. So just stuff that didn't make any sense whatsoever. But from this point looking back, it's like a paved road to get in here. It's amazing how things fit together. We had a car we wanted to sell and sell it to a friend. I gave him an attractive price, and the husband said, "No, I wouldn't need to pay more money." I said, "Well, just give me a couple of beehives." And that pulled his trigger. And that's how I got in the bee business. So just that kind of stuff all the way through. And then that last line, I'm kind of proud of that. I'm off chemo. My doctor, and I may be, I don't know this, but I may be the only multiple myeloma patient that's ever been taken off chemo for good reasons. It's just amazing. I feel so much better. But our doctor, months ago, how long has that been? 20, 30 weeks, 4 months, whatever. Been many months ago that our doctor said, our oncologist in St. Louis said, you know, I think what you're doing is, I think what I'm doing is dragging you down, the chemo. And he said, I think what you're doing might be helping, so let's pull you off and try it. I go back August 22nd for the latest numbers, and I ask your prayers that works out well. And it's just amazing how it's all worked out. And I give God the glory for every bit of it. I've kind of fumbled through it, but other than that, Sandy and I have gone through a lot of medical trials and hardships, but God has led us and given us a new direction in life. Pay attention to Him. Now, Mike said this Sunday, hear and then obey. So that's not mine. I'll let Mike say that. But, and is this a miracle? Absolutely. I don't even know how this stuff works. I got my name on a patent, but I don't know how it works. God knows. And thank you. And I hope that you understand that this is not about me. This is a miracle from God. This is something that I was just fortunate enough to be told by Him how to do it. And fortunate enough in many ways to blunder through and listen. Made a lot of mistakes, but somehow God carried me through it. And I thank Him for that, and I appreciate you for listening. I understand now we're going into a prayer session, and I'll let you take over. I turned it on, I think.
Oh, Jeff, where is your seat? Our verse tonight is about there is